Welcome. Thanks for spending your Wednesday evening with us. All right. Good. It looks like we've got a good base of people logged in. So why don't we get started with the introductions? My name is Sarah Massey. I'm Senior Associate Director for Admissions for the Executive MBA program. I absolutely love what I do here. I get to meet interesting people all of the time. I'll introduce you to our two alums and one current student in a little bit. But have been privileged to get to work with all three of them throughout the years. I'm joined by Anupa Isaacs from my team. Anupa, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Anupa Isaac. I'm one of the admissions advisors for the MIT EMBA program. I'm glad to be here tonight.
Okay,
Over to you,
sounds
Sarah.
sounds good. So in our agenda today, we are going to begin first with an introduction to the MIT EMBA. So we're going to talk at a high level about the program itself. What does the structure look like and our students? Then we're going to give you a little primer on technology resources at MIT and resources around MIT for students. And then the really exciting feature of tonight is going to be a panel discussion with our current student and alumni. So Sri, Julianne, and Chi-Chi, thank you so much for joining us. We'll do a more formal introduction as we get to the panel, but let's start with the introduction. Anupa, you want to get started with the EMBA overview?
Thank you, Sarah. So let's start the introduction to the MIT EMBA by going over the mission of MIT Sloan. MIT Sloan, and the Executive MBA are all deeply mission-driven. As part of a larger research institute, MIT Sloan plays an important role in turning innovations into real-world organizational capabilities. And so the mission of MIT Sloan is to develop principled, innovative leaders who improve the world and to generate ideas that advance management practice. Those who apply and enroll in the MIT EMBA program are distinct from their peers at Sloan, since they are already experienced leaders, which is why the mission of MIT Executive MBA is empowering and connecting leaders to redefine our shared future. Now let's look into the EMBA structure. You will earn the same MBA degree as our two-year traditional MBA program. The distinction is in the format and the cohort. The MIT MBA is a 20-month experience where you are on campus 26 weekends. Our weekends are Fridays and Saturdays, and this happens every 2 to 3 weeks. There will also be four-week-long modules on campus, spaced every 6 months throughout the program. You will also have an option to do a week-long international project that is part of an executive lab course that takes place around mid-March of your final year. This data is pulled from the MIT MBA class of 2026, but these numbers remain fairly similar year over year. Imagine yourself in a classroom of 126 global executives. The average years of work experience in the room is 17, and the average age in the room is 41. The age range has been anywhere from 29 to 68 in the recent years. 65% of the class travels from outside of Massachusetts each weekend to attend classes in person. 61% of our students hold an advanced degree of some kind, which could be an MD, a law degree, PhD, or master's. 76% are at the director level of their organization or above. The one thing that 100% of our admits have in common, though, is that they're employed full-time. The faculty of the MBA program are senior faculty of MIT Sloan. They are world-class researchers, industry experts, and distinguished teachers. I'll be highlighting two faculties here tonight. Catherine Tucker is the faculty director of the Executive MBA program and also a professor of marketing. She has a PhD from Stanford University in economics and teaches numerous courses in the program. Her teaching and research focuses on the interface between marketing, the economics of technology, and law. She's also the co-founder of the MIT Crypto Economics Lab, which studies the application of blockchains. Catherine has won multiple teaching awards, including the Sloan School Teacher of the Year. The next faculty I'm talking about is Dimitris Batsimas. He's the Associate Dean for Online Education and Artificial Intelligence. He was also named the Vice Provost for Open Learning. He teaches Analytics Edge for the MIT EMBA, as well as leadership, quantitative and qualitative approaches. Also, this fall, MIT Open Learning launched Universal AI, which is started by Demetris. And this is to help make AI learning easier and more accessible for everyone.
Okay.
Over to you, Sarah.
All right, great. So let's talk about the rest of MIT. So that's a little really high level focus on the Executive MBA program. When you are an Executive MBA, you are a graduate student at MIT. And so you have access to all kinds of other things going on at MIT and resources. So let's click to the next slide and check out the environment that we're sitting in. So I know this is a really, really busy map, but bear with me just a little bit. Those red areas on the map are MIT's campus. All surrounding the campus are all kinds of big tech, startup, biotech, heavy tech, right? It's both software and hardware, all kinds of innovative companies, primarily, right, the research components of these organizations, and just cutting edge work going on all around the board. I'm not going to highlight specific companies here. It's just really to show how dense of an area it is around Kendall Square in Cambridge. All right, so we've looked at the area now. MIT itself has resources across the board. So a few years ago, we started the Schwarzman College of Computing. And, this was really an initiative to bring computing and artificial intelligence, which are central to, across the board, to all of the fields of study. So this college is interdisciplinary. It supports all of the schools at MIT and is part of the core curriculum for MIT students. So it's really built on MIT's bedrock strength in computer science, and the computer engineering department kind of moved into Schwarzman College. Started with a $1 billion commitment to get this started and reorient MIT here, building upon the strengths that we already had. So the new college opened in 2019, the new building opened in 2024, and it's really become integrated into all of the schools across MIT. All right, so next, the Quest for Intelligence. This sits within the Schwarzman College. It's a major initiative focused on two big questions: how do brains produce intelligence, and how can it be replicated in artificial systems? So again, a cross-disciplinary, massive challenge, like global challenge. It's really organized around having collaborative efforts across disciplines, right? Science, engineering, humanities, across the board. And, AI is already influencing probably every industry, every company that any of you here are part of. But this initiative is focused on that next great breakthrough that, that as an entrepreneur today, you're maybe not even thinking of. It also, right, has to be looking at the ethical implications of this work. So that's Quest for Intelligence. We also have at MIT CSAIL. Now, this has been around for many years. It's the largest lab at MIT, and it's the Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory. It's been around for many years. It's really a driving force behind computing becoming increasingly integrated in our lives. They are a leading AI and computing research hub. They have all kinds of, they have conferences and programming that our students have been involved with in the past, but they've made significant breakthroughs in machine learning, robotics, cybersecurity, topics like that, and do a lot of industry collaborations as well. All right, so next, those are three big buckets that I wanted to highlight for people from the tech industry, but there's all kinds of resources at MIT for executive MBA students. So at the Martin Trust Center for Entrepreneurship, which lives in Sloan, they offer programming such as MIT Fuse, which maybe Julianne will talk about a little bit later. We have at the MIT's Media Lab has initiatives like the Digital Currency Initiative. MIT Innovation HQ has venture mentoring services. all kinds of resources through different initiatives and offices and schools at MIT. These are all things that our students in the past have been involved in the past and currently have had involvement with. And there are many, many more resources like this at MIT. So you've got this huge playground around. In our class, our students are coming from, it's about 20% in the class of 2026 are from technology companies. And so these are from small startups like Neural Payments, actually started by a couple of our alums. VirtuStream also was started by a couple of our alums, to the big companies like Amazon, Salesforce, Adobe, Microsoft, etc. All right. Oh, good. And it's just adding. Okay, perfect. I forgot about the animation I had here. So these large companies, Akamai, Analog Devices, big local companies. Okay. Tons of resources at MIT, lots of students that have a background in technology. Today we're joined by 3 people who have experience going through the program. So I'm going to kick it off to them. This is a panel forum. We have in the Zoom chat, there's a Q&A box. So if you click on Q&A, you can submit your questions. This is really meant to be a dialogue with you. So I'm going to introduce our candidates and we'll get started. And while we're talking, start to feed any of your questions in that you'd like to hear from our students. So Shri, Julianne, and Chi-Chi, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I think maybe we'll just go left to right on this, on the graphic here. If you want to introduce yourself, just tell us a little bit about yourself, what it is that what's your professional background? Maybe, if you're doing something different now than you were when you joined the program, maybe tell us a little bit about that, but just briefly your professional background and why you came to MIT.
Right. We'll start off. Sri Challa, mechanical engineer by training. I graduated in 2017, so started the program about a decade ago. My professional background, as I said, mechanical engineer by training, never did anything in mechanical engineering, always been an IT software guy. I have I've worked for a bunch of different companies, predominantly in the tech and IT services industry. Most recently, I transitioned to a new role at McKesson. I run the B2B integration space within McKesson, which is a pretty significant portion of our business.
Thank you. Perfect. I look forward to hearing more about that. All right, Julianne.
Great. So it's great to be here with you guys. I am currently going through the program. I am starting my final stretch, my final 6 months before graduation. So I'll be happy to be answering any questions like with the fresh experience. So I lead the mobile strategy at Adobe that pretty much covers all the mobile apps. They are available through the app stores. So pretty much all the subscription business for Adobe. I transitioned roles as I joined the program. I had been already 7 to 8 years focused on go-to-markets from analytics perspective. After I joined the program, I was able to internally get a promotion to director and move into the strategy side of a go-to-market, which has been very positive. So during the entire program, I have been applying literally everything that I'm looking into the weekends, fresh in my mind, coming to this new role, sitting in the strategy job position. And I think that's about it. Before MIT, I was already working in tech for like 20 years. I came for a career progression, and I'm finding a lot of more than I was looking for. So happy to go deeper into my experience.
Good. Thank you. Hey, Chi-Chi.
Hi everyone, I'm Chi Chi. It's so nice to see everyone here, and I'm excited that you're thinking about the program because I loved my experience. I'm based in Boston. I graduated in 2023, so it still feels pretty fresh. I came from a pretty non-traditional path into tech. So I've been in tech for a little over 10 years now, but I started my career in a very traditional journalism role in media and then over time transitioned into tech. I wanted to do this program primarily because I wanted a toolkit for essentially a pathway to becoming a senior leader in my industry. Also, a fun fact about my experience, I was a I was pregnant in the last part of my program. So if you have questions, and now I have three wonderful kids, but if you have questions about, work-life balance, those kind of things, I'm happy to answer that as well because we've all got a lot going on.
That's actually a really good thing to bring up because it's a very common question that I know people have. Is really like, I know I want to do this, but there's but how will I balance? We have our first question coming in from the audience or from our guests tonight. So actually, this one is related to an admissions requirement, but I wonder if any of you, I cannot remember. Sometimes I do. I can't remember exactly if for the three of you, if you had all of your math done, or if you done before you applied, or if you were working on some math courses as you were coming in. Chi Chi, I see you nodding.
Yeah, I did I don't expect you to remember this, but I think I got a B plus on my statistics test and I messaged Sarah immediately because I was so excited and I was afraid I wasn't going to get in. But I had to satisfy I think it was a statistics class, and I did that online over the course of about a few months.
Yeah, that's good. It is for anybody who's thinking about that and a little bit intimidated by the idea of taking calculus or statistics. Just know that a lot of people, Chi Chi and others, many people over the years have had to do those refreshers or those credit bearing courses and come out successful and glad that they did it in the end. Actually, I have a question from Monique for you, Chi Chi. There's a question about how you switched into tech.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't in the process of switching. I had already, so I was at Google when I started the program, in a leadership executive role. But I think this program, if you're interested in transitioning from one industry to another, there were a lot of folks in my program, in my particular class, that did this. Um, Specifically, one of my classmates had been working in agricultural, like fertilizer, for a long time, like a very niche industry. And he was also interested in getting to climate tech. So every week he would be meeting with folks at MIT, professors. Also, there's a lot of deep tech accelerators and VCs here in the ecosystem. And so I could see him like just hustling every weekend, setting up meetings with people every time he was here. He wasn't based here. So I think there's a lot of resources. It's not handed to you by any means. Like you do have to work for it. And I think if you have the desire to kind of make that transition, I think there are resources here for you to do that. And I think on top of that, we also have like a pretty strong alumni network. So we have access to that as well if you're willing to do some research and reach out to people that way.
Yeah, I've seen such generosity over the years of people paying it forward with time, information and time and expertise and just helping people figure out their next steps. There's a question here that I think would be good for Julianne, maybe. You're still in the program, so you're in the middle of this right now. I know we tell people that the homework commitment is 15 to 20 hours per week. You're in the middle of it right now. What is the work commitment or the school commitment outside of class hours feel like to you?
Yeah, I think for sure, like this idea in on average 15 to 20 hours per week um, is accurate, but that fluctuates. So right now, for example, we are like in three, let's say like a lower weeks, then maybe I'm doing like 8 hours in those 2 weeks, but they are peaks that I had to stretch a little bit more. So it's going to be, that's exactly how the program will structure us. We will have inflection points, but we also have like moments that we will have like a longer break between the weekends, which helps us to manage everything. But this point, like how many hours, is also like how much you want to take out of the program or out of one specific class. So right now we are taking finance. I really want to go deeper and to collect more learning. So maybe I'm putting like a lot of more hours than someone else that has interest in maybe in something else. So it depends also in how much do we want to get from each class.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I've heard similar. Here's one that might be good for first three. Can you share how EMBA has affected your career during and after the program? You're about 10 years, you're not quite 10 years out, but 10 years from your start date for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think one of the important things I didn't quite expand into my professional career during the introduction. One of the important things for me getting into the program was to have the fluidity and the flexibility to go between different industries as well as different functions. And to me, that has been super beneficial. I was, at the time I was running the program, I was a director of software engineering at a medical devices company out of Boston. Um, During the program, I switched into a sales role. And then from that point on, for the next decade or so, maybe, yeah, roughly about 8 or 10 years, I've done different kinds of sales. And and not just the function, but also the technology. I picked up just before I started this new gig. I was running blockchain Web3 go to market globally for one of the largest global systems integrators. So again, having that ability to navigate into a new technology without actually feeling any kind of anxiety, stress, whatever. And that comes from, I know Sarah put up that map which showed sort of the greater Kendall Square area, but there's a lot more to it than that, which is all of your network within the school, which includes your current professors, people, faculty that's outside of Sloan that you don't really take classes, and then your class and your alumni. So when I started this blockchain gig, I had no idea about blockchain, and I was the head of go-to-market for blockchain, enterprise blockchain at the time, for one of the companies. So now it feels very comfortable to say that Simon Johnson, who won the Nobel Prize, he used to run a lunch and learn session every Thursday on blockchain because it was at the time very, very brand new and up and coming. And that's where I met Gary Gensler, who was the SEC chair. And the kind of confidence and the structure that you get out of not just the program, but post the program from some of these interactions give you the flexibility to navigate into a different role. And as a matter of fact, in the last 4 months, I went from tech into McKesson, which is a Fortune 9 company, which does mostly pharmaceutical distribution stuff. And I didn't really feel any kind of anxiety switching over. In fact, I felt like, you know what, I got to do that if I have to apply my skills more efficiently. So in general, I think, over the 20 months, you'll be equipped with enough set of tools on your plate, which help you navigate with confidence and explore with confidence.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's a really good answer to that, and maybe related slightly to, and I don't know which one of you feels maybe most inspired by this, but Kevin has, I think, an interesting question. When you boil down your learnings, what was the most impactful for the business you worked for? Right? And I think he's thinking. He says, like, what had the largest P&L impact? There's probably a lot of things running through your head, but if you were to boil down one that you think has had the largest impact.
I can kick off on this. For sure, like the systemic approach to things. So I remember, Sarah, once I came into one of the sessions. You mentioned about like system dynamics invented by MIT. It's just it's impossible to go through that experience and get out of the other side without seeing everything in a different way. So for me, like this is like, and all the classes that comes after that, that will just build on the top of understand systemically how the world operates, how your company operates, how your career. So I think there is like this impact that comes from inside. You change your perspective. You put different lenses, and that I believe like that we just carry forward because it's impossible to unseen. So I would say for sure like all the system dynamics and the classes that come with that.
Oh, thanks, Julianne. All right. I've got a lot of good questions coming in here. I see Anupa's highlighted one. Given that you're busy, right? You all have busy schedules during the program, as do all of our students. Can you talk a little bit about how the program structured time for meaningful engagement and relationship building? Or maybe how you did. There are the parts that we structure, and then there are those parts that you and each cohort drive themselves as well.
I can start off.
Sure.
So you saw the slides, 26 weekends, 4 full week engagements. So one of the things that the program does very, very efficiently is not just during the week, but oftentimes there are events that happen the Friday or the Thursday or maybe Sunday or what have you. I still remember something that was very important to me because we had this event where we went around different labs at MIT, just going around touring the labs so that we understand what actual tech is being developed, so that as management, folks, we can try and figure out how we can apply that. And one of the interesting things that my cohort or my team, my class did was that um, we had a fireside chat that we started sometime halfway through the program, and we used to do that every week, or every time we met over lunch, where somebody from the class would talk about their own personal experiences. For us, that was, for me, that's been very, very powerful in that you understand, you know, the reason why people do what they do, what motivates them. And honestly, it just boils down to how much you want to get. I think it was Chichi or Julianne who mentioned that. So yeah, even today, for example, I have a monthly checkpoint with at least a half a dozen of my classmates where I'm checking on, and these are half an hour scheduled meetings where I'm checking on how they're doing, but also just bouncing off, okay, this is what I've done in my work over the last 1 month. Tell me how you think about it. And I choose that in a very unique way in that I have a doctor, an retired Air Force pilot. So it's people that are not coming from my mindset that can come back and show me in the mirror and say, this is not the right way you're doing, or this is not the way we were taught to do things. But yeah, I'll stop.
Yeah, can I just add into that? We have, for me, like MIT is helping us to create those connections since like day one. That was for me has still been like a big surprise. It's not just the events, but how inside the class schedule we fit in this connection. So we have like our groups set right at the beginning, and we need to interact with this group, right? It's like a group of 8, and then you have a closer interaction with a group of 4, and it's pure diverse. So diversity of thought, diversity of perspectives, and now has been almost like 2 years because we are approaching the end since I started with this group. After the program, they switch off, but those connections are still with us. So the program itself already allows us to build this relationship. And it's the other point, like it's, as she said, the connecting with the people with different perspectives. I think that is the key of this program, because we will learn so much more just by the questions that we will hear in class. There will be the beginning of like maybe a meaningful conversation over break, and then we will go over coffee and so on.
Oh, that's a really good point. Natalie has a question that is probably relevant to a lot of people who are thinking about applying to any higher education program. So if any of you are comfortable talking about how did you finance your degree, if you took out private loans, hoping to pay it off, right? Kind of hoping it would work out for you down the line. What was your experience with the financial decision making for this program?
Yeah, I'm happy to share a little bit about my experience. There were a handful of folks in class who were lucky enough to be funded by their companies, and I was not one of those. And I think for a lot of people in my class, they were also self-funded as well. That said, this has by far been the best investment I've ever made, not only in myself, but also I think for my family as well. Um, it's a sizable amount of money. It's a very expensive program, even compared to some of the other programs out there. I had started out with a very serious conversation with my significant other, as it would impact our family financially. And is this a good investment? And then having a really real conversation around that. How much can we take out of our savings? How much can we take out of my daily paycheck? Just as being totally like realistic and transparent, right? My company funded about 30K of it, so not a whole lot. I did consulting projects on the side, and I took money out of my savings. That said, as a long-term investment, it's only been a few years, but I would say it's more than paid for itself. And that's primarily because of the opportunities that's come my way as a result of the program, and among many other things. But I think, yeah, I can say that it's definitely worth the value, worth the cost of the program.
As the oldest graduate, I can say that the 8-year ROI is beating S&P by a big, big margin. I just want to add one more point, Chichi. Thank you very much for giving that context. Just one other little thing, right? I think almost all companies have a 5,250. I think it's probably $5,750 right now,
Yeah,
which is
52. Yep.
yeah, it is a federal, IRS regulation. It basically doesn't cost the company to do anything because they can write it off. So even if even if the company is ready to sponsor $0, go ask them for that 5,250 because it's 2 years and that's 12K that you can get out of, roughly speaking, right? And it's not a bad. When you're paying, I'll pick up every penny. So just keep that in mind. I know we didn't answer a broader sponsorship question. If there is one, we can go through that.
Speaking of the 5,250 limit, if you are in a role that is truly a general management, right? If you have true general management responsibilities, and if your company's human resources and legal department is willing to work at it with you, you might want to look into the working condition fringe benefit. It's a tax exemption that if every class you're taking applies to your current job without without qualifying you for a new job. So if you're already in general management and you're taking general management courses, you can have a higher amount up to the whole tuition that's, that can be a tax benefit if your company is paying for it directly. So there is like one loophole but your role would have to qualify for it and your company would have to be willing to go through that vetting process. Okay, good. Christian has a good question. What advice would you give to to people in coming into the program this year to maximize the experience overall, reflecting on your experiences?
I can start. I think it's to have a plan into what are your objectives and to try to plan for that. The time goes very fast. The weekends go very fast. So, for example, one of our classmates made a goal to have a one-on-one with all of us, all the 120 of us. In order to accomplish that, they had to start it really early in the program. So I think that it's important. And all the resources available at MIT, the labs that you guys want to visit, the other ecosystems that you want to explore. We have a lot of people. I have a lot of people in my cohort that they came with entrepreneurship ideas. They they plugged themselves into these programs right at the beginning, so gave them like a full 2 year to fully engage with the ecosystem. So I would think just like have a plan and execute beyond just the regular classes.
That's
I want to add a
nice.
yeah. Thank you so much, Julian, for that. Just one other thing. If you want to maximize the benefit of the program, and this is my personal experience, obviously, you want to get your management, your reporting managers aligned to it. But one thing that has been very beneficial, and hindsight I could have done far better, is to make sure that you involve your subordinates through your learning experiences and then people across you. So it could be somebody who's your peer, and let's say, yeah, you go through one of the classes, which is one of my favorite, Roberto Fernandez, organizational processes. So you pick up some interesting tool. Go talk to your go talk to your peers and tell them how you think that's been helpful for you. I think what you will do by this is a couple of things, right? So number one is, I mean, MIT brand by itself shines very, very bright. But as you do this, you're going to try and immerse all of your learnings, the Sloan method of thinking, the MIT method of thinking, and you'll create a brand for yourself within your organization. And that's how you start to get more ROI back from the investment or overall program. So be more sort of deliberate about it, think through it. And as Julianne was mentioning, talk to other classmates. Tell them, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think about it? And you'll be surprised at what ideas somebody else might have.
I think my favorite piece of advice is still the piece of advice you gave me, Sarah, is I think you gave me the advice primarily because this is in my backyard. MIT is like 5 minutes from where I live. I went into it just being fully ready to commit. And I think, Sarah, before the program started, um, I think you knew that there would be a temptation, right? To not go to all the social events, to go home early, right? But to really experience the program as uh, you know, as much as we can, for every single drop that it has, right? Similar to kind of people who are here flying in from Jordan or Egypt, or we had people who were coming in for just a few days from around the world, and you saw that they definitely made the most of their time here. They didn't waste a minute on the ground here, and it's easy to take that for granted when it's in your backyard. But I think having that kind of as a precursor to entering the program was really helpful. Um, and letting folks around know, I'm not going to be available. Yeah, I'm going to class, but I'm actually going out after class with my colleagues or with my classmates to dinner and to events and things like that, even though it's only a few minutes away.
It's one of the harder things to do. I don't know if you had to kind of re-engage that or return that on throughout. But I think for a lot of people there's the first commitment, and then there's the recommitment you take a couple of months in maybe, and then the recommitment you make a year in when maybe it doesn't feel new anymore and you have to make sure you've got the energy to do another year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. We're getting some more good questions in here. Anupa, you've highlighted one. This one's for Sri. Coming from a core tech background, how were you able to apply the action learnings into your job at the time?
Uh, it's a tough question because I think every class, every assignment was something that it was prescribed that you need to go back and bring something from your work. But I also tried extremely hard to make that happen. So I'm gonna go back. I think Julianne, thank you so much for pointing out system dynamics, because once you learn system dynamics, that's the only way you can think. There's no other way you can think in a structured fashion. So I'll take the example, and I think here I want to sort of juxtapose this. It was a deliberate attempt on my part that being trained as an engineer, I always had good analytical skills. What I wanted to make sure I got enough out of the program was the softer side of things. And this reminds me of the class that Professor Roberto Fernandez took us, which was organizational processes. And it was the title of the class, or sort of the subtext for that was, we're very, very, very hard about the soft stuff. So no matter where you are, whether you're in tech, whether you're in general management doing something else, what have you, you're always going to have to manage change. And something that I still use as a as a tool is, from the organizational processes class, we had a specific framework that was given, which said, if you are trying to impact a change within your organization, who are the key people, who are the people that are with you, who are the people that are away from you, and who are the people that are working against you? And how do you structurally go about doing that? So, and that was the first class, first semester, first class. I applied that through a pricing change exercise that I did with my company, which again required buy-in from a whole lot of stakeholders, from the sales, from the finance teams, from the delivery teams. And I think that framework was very, very helpful. Another thing, and I'll just mention this, is that this is like, it keeps getting sharper and sharper as it ages, right? I'm now, it's been a decade since I've taken the class with Roberto Fernandez. So as I entered my new job back in August, I walked in with two principles. First principle, or first rule that I had, was that for the first 2 weeks, I was not going to say anything out of my mouth which was either a decision or any opinion on anything. And going back to Julianne's point, I have a team of about 40 people in the US. The first 2.5 weeks to 3 weeks, I made it a point to have one-on-one meeting with every single one of my teammates. It didn't matter whether they reported to me or they were 3 layers away from me, but I made sure that happened. And that didn't come by itself. It's not easy to tell somebody that or make somebody appreciate it. It's only over a course of time that you understand. Now, having invested that first 2 or 3 weeks into it, it's paying off. I know it'll pay off in the future, because before even an escalation mail comes from somewhere, I have somebody calling or texting me saying that, guess what? The VP of this area is going to call you now. So just keep in mind that. So the application from a core tech background, my recommendation for anybody coming with core tech skills is to just have that switch in your mind to figure out the non-exercise part of your brain and learn how to exercise that more efficiently through the program.
Good one. Okay, we're getting towards the end of our time together. So you don't all have to answer the same question. I'm gonna throw out just a couple of possible prompts for you. In sort of a closing words, if you can share, thinking back to where you were a few years ago when you were trying to decide if you were going to apply to this program, or knew you were and were trying to prepare yourself either for a great application or to have your life in order when you started this. If you could tell yourself something, or if you could share, what's something that was just really fun that you experienced while in school, whether that was something in a class or something in the community, but a reflection. So either a piece of advice or something that was just really fun and perhaps unexpected. And I'll let all three of you answer it, so you can take whichever angle on this
Yeah.
you want.
I will talk about transformational journey that this experience has been. Um, and as Chichi said, I think commitment is the word, right? I came into the program like from applying, get accepted. I decided, okay, I will go all in. So in my case, I relocated from San Francisco to Boston to be closer to the ecosystem. And I came with like a mindset that I only imagine like content, skills that I will develop. But the transformational journey on a personal level has been beyond all expectations. And I think that is the value that I will carry with me after this journey ends. So I am just like so thankful for the program and for everything that is given to my life beyond just a professional settings.
I think there are a couple of things that come to mind. So I knew about MIT. I knew about the Men's and Manas, it's a very practical program. It's part of the reason I applied and wanted to do it. Um, Other than that, I didn't have a lot of expectations. I knew it was going to be rigorous. The thing that I think you'll probably hear this a lot from others in the program, the class. So one of the questions we asked, or I asked when I first started to the professors was why, because they would say, "Oh, I love the executive MBA." And I think, in my head, just because I came from a very non-traditional path, I just pictured a lot of people in suits, right? And I would look at the ratio, of certain demographics, and I had certain like stereotypes in my head. And I remember thinking they're just giving us lip service, like you love it. But when I got into the program, I'm like, oh, I know why they love this. Because they're teaching a thing, but like unlike the undergrads, right? Like, or not the undergrad, the traditional, they call them, what is it? Like the baby MBAs? The baby MBAs.
Affectionately.
Yeah, the baby MBAs is every time we talked about something in class, and it's not to say the professors aren't incredible because they are, they've won Nobel Prizes, but somebody in class knew more about a very specific thing in that moment than the professor did. And it was always the case, whatever we were talking about, right? Like somebody would be talking about, we had a case study, I think, about a winery, and we were talking about uh, P&L and how to calculate, do certain calculations. And this guy next to me was like, well, I've run a winery. And then he went into his whole thing. And there was just so much we learned every day from our classmates. Um, One professor was talking about platforms, and half the like a bunch of people working in tech, I had worked on platforms. There was a class about VCs. We had a venture capitalist in class. There was a guy who basically could teach one of the chapters, one of the classes we had. So I felt like, um, immediately it was clear because the professors were learning from us, as well. And that's why, and you could also see it too in the class because a lot of the professors ended up, some of them invested in startups that the students had started. Some of them started partnered, with the students, and did projects with them. Some of them advised the students and brought them into their companies to come be consultants. It was just like really amazing the diversity. And I live in a bubble. I don't know about you, but I live in a bubble. I live in a little tech bubble here in Cambridge with my friends who think a certain way and do a certain thing. This is a program where you're exposed to so many different people, a lot of people that you would otherwise never meet, and you spend a lot of time. And it's very energizing interacting with them and learning from them, even if you disagree with them. And that part, the diversity of the program, I mean, I kudos to you guys for bringing in such an amazing group of people in terms of like the diversity and what people have to offer. I know you put a lot of thought into it.
Thank you. Thank you, Chichi. Thanks, Julian. Just to follow up on that, one good example. I don't know if there might be people who are too young, but if people remember the browser wars back in the day between Internet Explorer, Microsoft, and Netscape. So we had a case study or class that had something to do with it. And we're going through specifics around how Bill Gates' deposition was there. And we had an attorney in the class who lifted his hand and said, I read through about 25% of all of those emails. So it is surprising and fascinating on the level of I think the experience, and that's the richness of the class, especially with Executive MBA program. So fun part, and also an interesting sort of a very practical and real observation is that I've done a bunch of these sessions in the past. So something that stuck me and continues to be is that I can't remember who it was, but I think a bunch of us were discussing along with the program staff and said, how do you summarize the Executive MBA program? So you take the 20 months, you break it into two parts, 10 months each. The first 10 months, the faculty and the staff break you apart. And the next 10 months, they put you back together and reconfigure you so that you're sharp in either your own industry or you can penetrate and go to a different industry. And I know it's an oversimplification of the program, but that's a lot of reality. That's actually a fact. You will find very interesting people. Obviously, I think it's a tall order to go and have one-on-one conversation with all of the 125, 26 people. But what caught my attention, and this is one of my classmates and close friend, Barry Stein, is that he'd always say, I'm not interested in the answer. I'm interested in what made you ask that question. What is your brain thinking about when you ask that question? And I take that very, very seriously. I still remember when he said that in class, especially it was in tying it back, it was in Catherine Tucker's marketing class. And even today, what I'm fascinated by when I talk to people, when I'm in meetings, when I'm talking to leadership is, what's the brain processing in order to put out that output or that question or give that answer? And I think just going back, it's a lot of that breaking you apart and putting you together. And that's how the program is structured, actually. If you really look at it, Nick, there's a lot of hard stuff that happens in the first couple of classes. And then the next leg, I see Julian smiling because,
I hope that now they are putting my
you're in the
pieces together.
reconfiguration.
Yes.
That's where you are.
Yeah. But I just want to offer anybody on the program, you guys can look me up on LinkedIn. Anybody who needs anything, just feel free to drop me a message and I'll answer. But yeah. Thank you very much, Sarah and Anupa. Thanks, my co-panel, Julia and Chichi.
We really appreciate all three of you taking the time. I've had so much fun tonight hearing the three of you reflect on your time here. And I'm sure anybody watching this now or that's with us right now or on the recording is going to have a much better understanding. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Anupa, I know you have a few closing words, a few logistics for people who are thinking about applying.
Yes, I do. Just a few more slides and we will be done. Thank you again, everyone. I truly enjoyed it. Okay, so just a little bit of information for everyone. Again, our applications are open. These are our deadlines. You can see this on our website. And if anyone has already started their application, you can see it on your application portal too. The deadlines for all these rounds are at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. You can see a couple of in-person events in Texas and Mexico City here. The info sessions are always followed by panel discussions with local alumni. The Let's Chat session that you see in Austin is a sit-down one-on-one conversation with Amber Ackerman, our Director of EMBA and SFMBA programs, and Sarah Massey, Senior Associate Director of Admissions for EMBA. They both are going to be there. So anybody is interested, please go to our website and sign up for these events there. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Hoping to see your applications in soon and have a great rest of your night.